just started. Okay. So as part of your agenda, so first we will be starting off with your AWS. So here we will, first look at your infrastructure. So first we'll understand what exactly your infrastructure is, what it means, uh, the different types of infrastructure we have, the benefits of your infrastructure that we will cover, and then post that we will start off with your cloud computing. So look, understand what is cloud computing, what are the benefits we have, what are the different types of cloud computing we have, the different deployment models we have, and then also the different providers we have in your cloud computing. Okay. Post that, we'll start off with your AWS. So first, we look at your introduction to AWS, the benefits of your AWS, and then also your account creation. Okay. And then we will start off with your services in AWS. So, AWS is all about your services. Okay. So whenever we talk about your infrastructure, we have different components, right? So we will start off with your IAM, then EC2, then S3, then we will look at your Cloud Watch, uh, and then we will look at your Glacier, then we will look at your storage gateway, then we will look at your Snow family, then we will look at your VPC, then EFS, then RDS, DynamoDB, Elastic Cache. We will talk a bit about your Aurora database, then SNS, SES, SQS. We'll also talk about your Lambda service. Then we will look at your Route 53. Then we will look at organizations. We'll also talk about AWS budgets, how you can set budgets for your account, we'll also talk about your cost explorers, understanding the costing, how it works, what are the different metrics that are available. And that's all. So these are the services we are going to cover as part of your AWS. Now, not all of these services are important. However, if you're looking at doing certifications, these services are important. Now, but from the interviews perspective, not all of these services are important. Uh, as we work with the services, I'll tell you which services are important, and within that, what are the topics that are important. But ideally, these are the services that I'm going to cover. Okay. Any questions with this?
No, Ravi.
No.
Okay. And then post that we will be starting off with your DevOps. Now under DevOps, we will again look at your introduction to DevOps, what exactly it is, why we have DevOps, and then post that we will start with your Git and GitHub. So first we will look at your version control system, then we will look at your Docker, we will look at Ansible, Jenkins, Kubernetes, Terraform, and then we will also look at your monitoring tool, which is ELK. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tools. All right. Now Terraform will be at a very high level. I won't be going in depth with this. However, I have a YouTube channel where you will find lots of good material related to Terraform. So if you can just concentrate on that, that should be more than enough for you to work with Terraform. Again, Kubernetes, we won't be going in depth, but the important topics I will be covering, but the rest of the things will be in depth. Okay, questions with this?
Oh, so actually, I don't come from DevOps background. So like to attend the interviews, so will you be guiding us? I mean, like in
Yeah.
the sense the important topics.
Yeah. So again, under this, I will be sharing you the interview questions, the most common questions that you can expect when we talk about these
Okay.
tools, and also as and when we're working with the tools, I'll be telling you what is important and what you should be concentrating on.
Okay.
However, see if you're able to master these, whatever I'm going to teach, that should be more than sufficient for your interviews. Especially
Okay.
if you want to show like 2 to 3 years of experience, this is more than sufficient.
Okay.
Okay. Again, like I said, if you are able to kind of understand all of these and do the hands-on properly, this is more than enough for you to clear the interviews.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No.
No.
All right. So we will start off with your AWS first. All right. So like I said, ideally we will start off with your no, okay, before I do this, give me a moment. I'll stop sharing for a moment. Yeah, I so I like I mentioned, I also have a YouTube channel. I would request you to subscribe to that. I'll share you the link to it. Give me a moment. Okay, I pinged you the link in the group. Request you to subscribe to that. Let me know once you're done.
Yeah, I've already subscribed.
Okay. Cool. Bharat?
Doing so. Now subscribed so now.
Okay, cool.
It's done.
So again, like I said, you have Terraform. Um, you should be able to find a playlist for Terraform, which has, like I've covered everything that is needed for you to learn Terraform from the interview perspective, from the real world organization perspective, what all they use. I've covered everything, and currently I'm working on an AWS playlist. So I keep updating it at least on a day-to-day basis. So definitely you'll be benefited from that. So keep an eye on that. All right.
Okay.
So, okay. Now, before I start off with so first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at an introduction to infrastructure. Now, before I start off with the infrastructure, I want to understand what's your perspective or what's your understanding of when we say infrastructure. Any idea or no idea?
No idea.
Yeah, same here.
No problem. So, think of it like this. Now, so let's say you're planning to construct a house, right? Now,
Yes.
to construct that house, you need different materials, right? You need
Yeah.
the bricks, you need the cement, you need the rods, X, Y, Z, so many things, right? So we can call that as so everything combined together, we can call it as an infrastructure. Okay. Now, likewise, let's say you want to start a manufacturing plant, for example, right? Now, again, to set up that manufacturing plant, you need infrastructure for that, right? You need space, you need factories. Within that factories, you need machines, you need people. So basically, you need different components to set up that manufacturing plant. Agreed?
Correct, correct.
Yes.
Agree.
The same way, we can correlate that with your IT infrastructure as well. All right. So, like for example, let's say we have an application or we have a software. All right. Now, I want to host that application, meaning I want to run that application so that my end users can access that application. Now, to run that, I need an infrastructure. So here in IT, your infrastructure will include your servers, your storage, your networking, your database, your data center, all those things. We call it as your infrastructure. All right. So before we look at your cloud computing, it's very important. It is very important that you understand what is infrastructure basically, right? What is infrastructure and why we have infrastructure? So in general, whenever we talk about your infrastructure, it is the basic components, okay? The physical and organizational structures and facilities such as your buildings, your roads, your power supplies, etc., needed for the operation of a society or an enterprise. So in general, when we talk about your infrastructure, that's basically the components that you have, like physical or the structures that we have. In this case, your building. So let's say you have a society, apartment society. Now, how do we call that as a society? Like you have the buildings, you have the power supplies, you have the roads and everything. So all of this together, makes it for a society, right? So you'll have the buildings, you'll have the roads, you'll have the land, you'll have the power supplies, and all of this together, we call it as your infrastructure. All right. So infrastructure is defined as the basic physical systems of a business, region, or nation, and often involves the production of public goods or production processes. So all of these are basically your physical components, and these physical components makes up of different systems, right, which makes up for the infrastructure. All right. So again, the same thing. So the same concept can be applied in terms of your softwares and applications as well. So infrastructure is the foundation or the framework that supports a system or an organization. So, again, think of it like this. You want a house. Now, if you don't have the infrastructure, if you don't have the foundation, you won't get the house, right? You won't be able to stay in that house. The same applies here also. So in computing, information technology infrastructure is composed of physical and virtual resources that supports the flow, storage, and processing as well as analysis of your data. So any operations that you want to do, any processes you want to run, to do that you need to have some kind of an infrastructure, right? For example, let's say we are doing our day-to-day work, we are working in an office, right? Now for that also we need infrastructure. For example, in this case, as simple as your laptop. Now without the laptop you won't be able to work, so you can call that as an infrastructure. Okay. So IT infrastructure includes data centers, servers, network hubs, routers, computers, and many more things. So your server rooms, your servers, your desktops, your networking components, all of this together, we call it as your infrastructure. Okay. So with an IT infrastructure, a company can provide a positive customer experience by providing uninterrupted access to the website and online store. So, by setting up this infrastructure, we can make sure that the customers are accessing the application whenever they want without any downtime. Develop and launch solutions to the market with speed. So, you can quickly develop new solutions and you can deploy that to the market with higher speed. Collect data in real time to make quick decisions and then improve the employee productivity as well. So that's basically your introduction to infrastructure. Questions?
No, all good.
No.
Okay. Now, whenever we talk about your infrastructure, it consists of different components. So now we'll talk about the different components that are available as part of your infrastructure. So the components of the IT infrastructure are made up of interdependent elements, and two core groups of the components are the hardware and the software components. So in general, whenever we talk about an infrastructure, you'll have two categories. One is the hardware components, and then you have the software components. Okay, so hardware is basically your systems, your routers, your servers, and all those things are your hardware. And software is basically any applications. Any applications that we are using on a day-to-day basis is your software. So hardware uses software like an operating system to work, and likewise an operating system manages a system resources and hardware. So basically, this hardware and software, they are interdependent on each other, right? Even if one of the component is missing, you won't be able to work with the infrastructure. So operating system also makes connections between the software applications and the physical resources using networking components. So this operating system, which is also a kind of software that we have, it acts as a middleware between my hardware and the applications that I want to run, right? So hardware components can include your desktop computers, your servers, your data centers, your network hubs, your network routers, your network switches, and your physical facilities. Right? So all of these, we can call it as your hardware components. So likewise, when we talk about the software, it includes any applications, all right? Like let's say your customer management systems or your customer relationship management application or your enterprise resource planning applications or any of the operating systems or any of the web servers where we are running the applications. All of these can be considered as your softwares. To make it simpler, your WhatsApp, your Facebook, your Instagram, your YouTube, all these are applications, right? So we can call that as your software components. So in addition to that, we also have facilities. So these are your physical spaces where you'll have your networking hardware, your servers, your data centers, all of these will be available. So it also includes the network cabling in the office buildings to connect components of an IT infrastructure together. So this physical space that you have, that will have all of your servers, your networking components, the cabling, everything will be done within these facilities. Then you have the network. So networks are comprised of your network switches, your network routers, your hubs, your servers, which basically helps you to connect to other systems over the network. So switches connect network devices on local area networks like your routers, servers, and other switches. And then routers allow devices on different LANs to communicate and move packets between networks. And then hubs connect multiple networking devices to act as a single component. Okay, and then we have your server. So this is where we will be running our applications, or we will be hosting our application. So a core hardware component needed for an enterprise IT infrastructure is a server. So without a server, we won't be able to run any application, or we won't be able to host any application. Okay, so servers are essentially computers that allow multiple users to access and share the resources. And then you have the server rooms or the data centers, which is basically a collection of servers. So organizations house multiple servers in rooms called as your server rooms or your data centers. All right. So data centers are the core of most of your networks. All right. So these are the different components that we have whenever we talk about your IT infrastructure. Questions?
Oh,
No.
regarding the server, so in my previous company, they used to tell, they're using Windows or Linux server, and then now it is most of them are moved to cloud, AWS, GCP. So, what is the core difference? And then, I mean, I know it's on the cloud. So, what basically is the difference?
Okay, so see, generally when we talk about your infrastructure, we will have, we'll talk about that in some time, but for now, so you'll have the cloud infrastructure and you have the traditional infrastructure.
Correct.
Now, both are same. See, when we say
Mm-hmm.
AWS, there also we have servers, and then traditional, here also we have servers. The only difference is that in cloud, it's a virtual machine that we are using, all right?
Okay.
But there also we are using a Windows machine or a Linux machine. And traditional also we have Windows machine, Linux machine, but it will be a physical machine that we are using.
Okay.
That's the only difference here. But
Okay.
with your cloud, what happens is here also it's the same machine that we are using. It's just that it's a virtual machine and we are using it over a network, internet.
Okay. Got it.
Yes, Bharat, you had any questions?
No, sir.
Okay, cool. So next, let's talk about the types of IT infrastructure that we have. So generally, when we talk about your IT infrastructure, they can be divided into two types. So you have the traditional infrastructure and then you have the cloud infrastructure. So traditional infrastructure is like your on-premise data center, which is basically a physical data center where you'll have physical components. Okay, so let's look at each of these in detail. So a traditional IT infrastructure is made up of the usual hardware and the software components. So basically you'll have the physical components available and you'll be using this as part of your infrastructure. So this consists of your facilities, your data centers, your servers, your networking hardware, desktops, enterprise application software solutions. So all of these will be running in your own data center, which you will be managing. You will be responsible for that. So typically, this infrastructure setup, it requires more power, physical space, and memory than other infrastructure types. So basically, first is you need to have a physical space for this. You also need to have more power to manage and also more memory to run that infrastructure. So a traditional infrastructure is typically installed on premises for company only or for private use, right? So you're not going to share that infrastructure with anyone else. Only you will be using it, and you will be responsible for managing that infrastructure and maintaining that infrastructure. Questions? Okay,
No.
cool. Cool. And then we have your cloud infrastructure. Now, in cloud infrastructure also, we are basically setting up the infrastructure. It's just that uh, we won't be having any on-premise infrastructure. We won't be managing it. Under this, we will have a service provider who will be providing the infrastructure for us. So a cloud computing infrastructure is similar to your traditional infrastructure. However, end users can access the infrastructure via the internet with the ability to use cloud computing without installing on premises through virtualization. So in your cloud infrastructure, so here also we get the same components, your servers, your database, your storage, your networking, applications, everything will be available. But we as an end user, we don't have to install anything, we don't have to set up a physical space for this. All of these resources will be available to us over the internet in a virtualized form. So we'll get virtual database, we'll get virtual servers, we'll get virtual networks, everything will be virtualized for us. So virtualization connects physical servers maintained by a service provider at any or many geographical locations. So this so at the end of the day, see, these are also your physical data centers. However, this will be maintained by the service provider, like let's say AWS, GCP, Azure. They will be maintaining it, and we being the end users, we can start using that infrastructure over the internet. Right? So then it divides and abstracts resources like storage to make them accessible to users almost anywhere on once internet connection can be made. So any as long as you're connected to the internet, you can access the resources from anywhere you want. So because cloud infrastructure is often public, it is usually referred to as a public cloud. So that's basically the types of infrastructure that we have. Questions?
No,
No.
I'm clear.
Okay, so we are going to talk about your cloud infrastructure. So next, we'll look at your introduction to cloud computing. So cloud computing is the on-demand delivery of your IT resources over the internet with pay-as-you-go pricing. So cloud computing is all about your infrastructure, all right? However, it gives you some advantages. One is your on-demand. So whenever you want the resources, you can go and request for the resources, and all of these resources will be available over the internet, and the pricing will be pay-as-you-go. So meaning you're only going to pay for what you're going to use. Unlike your traditional infrastructure, you'll have to invest for the infra setup. Okay, like think of it like this. It's like owning a house and renting a house. So owning a house is you have to make the investment first, and then you have to manage that house as well. But when you talk about your renting, you're only going to pay for what you're going to use. So if you're going to stay for like 10 months, you're only going to pay for the 10-month rent. Or if you're going to stay for 2 years, only going to pay for that 2 years of rent. The same you have in your cloud computing as well. So cloud computing provides with an on-demand access via the internet to computing resources such as your applications, your servers, your data storage, your development tools, networking capabilities, and more, which will be hosted at a remote data center managed by a cloud service provider. So here you basically have a service provider who will be having all of these resources, and we being the end users, we can access all of these resources over the internet. So how this works is, so we'll have a cloud service provider, and this cloud service provider will have all of our resources like your servers, your database, your storage, your networking, and many more components. Now we being the end users, we can access these resources from anywhere we want as long as we have the internet connectivity. So I don't need to maintain any of these things. I don't need to manage any of these things. Me being the end user, I can start accessing these resources from anywhere I want as long as I have the internet connectivity. And with this, you're only going to pay for what you're going to use. So if you're, let's say you're going to use only 100 servers, you're only going to pay for that 100 servers. Or let's say you're going to utilize 1 terabytes of storage, you're only going to pay for that 1 terabytes of storage. All right. So instead of buying, owning, and maintaining physical data centers and servers, we can access technology services such as your computing power, storage, and databases on an as needed basis from a cloud provider like AWS in this case. So I don't have to buy any resources. I don't have to own any resources. I don't have to maintain any physical data centers. And I can still use all of these services, all of these resources by using a cloud service provider. All right. So the cloud service provider makes these resources available for a monthly subscription fee or bills them according to the usage of the resources on the cloud platform. So this is basically your pay as you go model. So, based on the usage that you're doing, you will be charged for that. Questions?
No, I'm good.
Okay. So who is using this cloud computing? I mean, as of now, there are many companies who are using this cloud computing. So organizations of every type, size, and industry are using the cloud for a variety of use cases, such as your data backup, disaster recovery, email, virtual desktops, software development, and testing, your big data analytics, and any customer facing web application. So basically, any domain you can think of, you have companies using the cloud services. So, for example, you have healthcare companies who are using these cloud services to develop more personalized treatments for patients. You have financial services who are using this cloud to power real-time fraud detection and prevention. And then you have video game makers who are using the cloud to deliver online games to millions of people around the world. So basically, there are lots of domains who are using these cloud services as part of their infrastructure to run their softwares, to run their applications, and basically host the applications for the end users. That's an introduction to cloud computing. Let me know if you have any questions. The next thing we are going to talk about the benefits. See, obviously, whenever we talk about the infrastructure, it needs to have some benefits, right? Only then people will start using it. So now we'll talk about what are benefits that are available. So whenever we talk about the cloud computing, it provides us with lots of benefits over the traditional IT infrastructure. So let's look at some of the benefits that your cloud computing provides. So the first benefit we have is your agility. Okay. So the cloud gives you easy access to a broad range of technologies so that you can innovate faster and build nearly anything you can imagine. So these cloud service providers, they will give you anything you want. So your servers, your database, your Internet of Things, your data analysis, or some customer facing applications, anything you want, your cloud services will provide it, and you can start using that to innovate faster and build any kind of application you want. So you can quickly spin up resources as you need them from infrastructure services such as your compute, your storage, your database, your Internet of Things, machine learning, data lakes, analytics, and many more. So your cloud services provides the services in all of these things. You can deploy technology services in a matter of minutes and get from idea to implementation several orders of magnitude faster than before. Now, think of it like this. Now, let's say you have an idea. Now, to implement that idea, first you need to have the infrastructure set up. Now, that setting up that infrastructure will obviously take time. Now, with your cloud, you already have the infrastructure that you want. So you can just start setting up quickly, and you can start getting that idea to implementation within few days or within few weeks. So this gives you the freedom to experiment, test new ideas to differentiate customer experiences and transform your business. The next benefit we have is your elasticity. Now, this is another very important benefit that we have. So with your cloud computing, you do not have to over provision resources upfront to handle peak levels of business activity in the future. So think of it like this. Uh, um, you're constructing a house, and beforehand itself what you do is you decide that, okay, I'm going to have 8 houses in the building, right? Now you don't know whether you will get the tenants or not, however you'll go and build it. Now the problem is you may get the tenants, you may not get the tenants. So there's always, you either over provision the resources or you'll have less resources. Now with your cloud computing, you can only request for the resources that you want right now. Like let's say right now you need only 100 servers. You use only 100 servers, and then after a few months, if you need more servers, you can go ahead and set up more servers you want. So you get that scale up and scale down facility. So instead, you can provision the amount of resources that you actually need. All right. So you can scale these resources up or down to instantly grow and shrink capacity as your business needs changes. The next benefit we have is your cost savings, another very important benefit. So, the cloud allows you to trade fixed expenses such as your data centers and physical service cost for variable expenses and only pay for the IT as you consume it. So, when we talk about the traditional infrastructure, you will have a fixed expense. You'll have to pay for the data center, you'll have to pay for the physical servers monthly. You'll have to pay for that, you'll have to pay for the management cost and everything. Now, with your cloud, you don't have to pay for the data center, you don't have to pay a fixed cost for the physical servers. You're only going to pay based on your usage. So, plus the variable expenses are much lower than what you would pay to do it yourself because of the economies of scale. So, basically, with your cloud computing, you will end up saving money because you're only going to pay for the resources that you're going to use. So if you're not using something, you don't have to pay any money for that. The last benefit we have is your deploy globally in minutes. Again, another very important advantage. So with the cloud, you can expand to new geographic locations and deploy globally within few minutes. So, when we talk about the service providers have infrastructure all over the world, right? Especially in terms of your AWS, the infrastructure is available all over the world. So you can deploy your application in any geographic location you want within few minutes. So for example, AWS has infrastructure all over the world. So you can deploy your application in multiple physical locations with just a few clicks. All right, so just with a few clicks, you can deploy your applications across any location you want within few minutes. So putting applications in closer proximity to the end users reduces the latency and improves the customer experience. These are the benefits we have as part of your cloud computing. Questions?
No.
So one quick question. So for example, if any website or any .NET application, how do we get to know as a user, like if this application is running on a cloud or the traditional method? So we usually don't get to know, is it?
Well,
For the user.
what is the point? Tell me. When you say as an end user, I'm not really concerned how this application is deployed. As an end
Okay.
user, for me, the application should be working. That's it.
Correct.
I should be able to access the application without any issue, without any latency, without any problem. Right? That's all my concern. I am not concerned where the YouTube is running, how it is deployed. For me, it should be working. It should be, it should give me the videos that I'm looking for. That's it.
Correct.
99% of the time, the end users is not worried about it.
Yeah. So though we used to do the restarts and all. What about the cloud? So will there be any maintenance and those kind of things that we have to take care, or like they will take it from their end?
Okay, so see here, because you are going to set up the infrastructure. Now, whatever the infrastructure you are going to set up. So when I say infrastructure, so servers also, you will be setting up the servers. And on these servers, you will be deploying your application. Now, you are
Okay.
responsible for that. All right. So
Okay.
if there is any restart or any issue with the application, you will have to troubleshoot that.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
So, think of it like this. I buy a bike. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if there's an issue with the bike, I have to take care of it.
Correct.
Right. The company will not come and tell, oh, you have an issue, let me help you with that. I mean, obviously they'll
Okay.
let you ready to pay money for that. Right.
Correct.
However, at the end of the day, you are responsible for that.
Mm-hmm.
The
True.
same applies here also.
Okay. Got it.
Okay. Next is your types of cloud computing. So again, when we talk about your cloud computing, there are different types that are available. All right. So primarily, there are three types of cloud computing, and we have your infrastructure as a service, we have the platform as a service, and then we have the software as a service. So depending on the use case, we will be using these different types of cloud computing. So first, let's look at your infrastructure as a service. Now, under infrastructure as a service, this will basically contain all the building blocks for the cloud IT. All right. So it typically provides access to networking features, computers, data storage space. So basically, under this, the cloud service provider will provide all these services, and we will be responsible for managing everything. So the data center, the network, the storage, the servers, the virtualization, all of these will be provided by the cloud service provider, and we being the users, we are responsible for setting up, the managing the OS, managing the database, managing the security, managing the applications. We will be responsible for that. So all of these will be available, and we will have to set it up depending on our requirement, how many servers we want, what is the storage we want, or the database. We will be responsible for setting that up. So your infrastructure as service gives you the highest level of flexibility and management control over your IT resources. So it is most similar to the existing IT resources with which many IT department and developers are familiar. So some of the examples include your AWS, Azure, GCP, and any cloud service who are providing you the infrastructure. It falls under your infrastructure as a service. So basically, here you're telling, I don't have anything, and I will be managing everything. So I will be managing the servers, I'll be managing the database, I'll be managing the networking, the security, application development, application management, everything I am going to manage. Then I will go with the infrastructure as a service. Make sense?
Yes, correct.
Then we have your platform as a service. Now, under platform as a service, you're only going to concentrate on developing the application and managing the application. So platform as a service, you also call it as your PaaS, removes the need for you to manage the underlying infrastructure, which generally includes your hardware and operating systems, and allows you to focus on the development and management of the applications. So under this, you don't have to worry about the underlying hardware basically. So it is setting up the infrastructure and all those things. You don't have to worry about that. So the data center, network, storage, servers, your virtualization, OS, database, security, everything will be taken care by the service provider. And you will be responsible for developing the application, maintaining the application, deploying the application. You don't have to worry about the underlying infrastructure. Okay, so this helps you to be more efficient, as you do not have to worry about the resource procurement, capacity planning, software maintenance, patching, or any of the other undifferentiated heavy lifting involved in running your application. For example, it's a YouTube. Now I'm running a channel on YouTube and I'm uploading videos to my channel. Now I'm an end user, so I'm only worried about the content that I'm creating. I am not worried about where YouTube is running, the infrastructure for the YouTube, maintenance of the YouTube, the security. I am not worried about that. Me being the end user, I'm only going to worry about developing my content and uploading it to YouTube. Likewise, let's say a Udemy or Play Store for that example. All of these are your platform as a service. So we have this Elastic Beanstalk service, we have Heroku. All of these falls under your platform as a service. Questions? Okay. And then the last we have is your software as a service, and this is the most commonly used one. So as an end user, this is what we are very commonly used to. So SaaS provides you with a complete product that is run and managed by the service provider. So under this, everything will be managed by the service provider. So the infrastructure as well as the application development and management will be managed by the service provider. And we will be the end users for using that application. So the data center, the network, the storage, the servers, the virtualization, OS, database, your security, and your application, everything will be taken care by the service provider itself. All right. And so in most cases, people referring to SaaS are referring to the end user application, such as a web-based email. So any applications that you're using for your day-to-day activity, it falls under your SaaS. So with the SaaS offering, you do not have to think about the service, I know about whether the service is maintained or how the underlying infrastructure is managed. You don't have to worry about any of those things. You're only going to think as to how you are going to use this particular application. So for example, your Google Drive, your Gmail, your Microsoft Outlook, or any WhatsApp, YouTube, all of these are your software as a service. Which we as an end user, we are using it. We are not going to worry about developing that application, maintaining that application, nothing. We're not going to worry about that. So these are three types of cloud computing we have. Questions?
Oh,
It's
so
clear.
basically, oh no, Bharat, go ahead.
Okay. No, it's clear, I said.
Okay.
So basically, if the company is building some application, so like, what will they choose? For example, like any plan view, for example. So
Yeah, so in our case, we are going with the infrastructure as a service where we are managing everything.
okay, got it.
So, we are setting up the servers, we are setting up the database, we are setting up the security, everything we are managing it.
So it is like infrastructure as a service. Okay.
Yes, yes. Any other questions, guys?
No.
Okay, I think that should be sufficient for today. Uh, I have two more topics under introduction to cloud. So we have your cloud deployment models and then also the different cloud service providers. And post that, we will be starting off with your AWS. Okay. Now, one thing I wanted to check is, so Bharat, you were telling that, if I remember this properly, the last time we had discussed, uh, we were talking that Monday, Tuesday, we won't be having this session, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Prokshit, so here's the situation that we have. So last time I was talking to Bharat, so there's a conflict which is with his working hours. So what I was thinking was we will be having the session from Wednesday to Sunday. Like
Okay.
we will have the session on Monday, Tuesday. We will have it on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. All
Cool,
right,
cool.
the first half basically.
Okay.
So like let's say this 10 to 11 basically. All right. So I just wanted to check if 10 to 11 works for both of you guys.
Yeah, 10 to
Yeah,
11.
sure.
10 to
10 to
11.
11 is fine, right?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah,
Okay, cool. So tomorrow we will again meet up at 10 and then we will
Okay.
continue with this. Okay.
sure.
Now, one thing, the recordings will be available here in the Skype. Make sure you download it to your system.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay. Once this meeting ends, the recordings will be available. So please download it because I won't have a backup of this. Okay. So
Okay,
please make sure you download it.
sure.
Cool. Thank
So
you so much.
one
Yeah.
quick question, like, how long will this course take? Like, like by the time, whatever the topics you discussed, like, in the introduction. So, like, how long will it take to cover all those topics, and then how?
Yes. So see, this will for now you can think of it as three months. AWS and
Okay,
DevOps in both. Okay.
okay,
Plus or
got it.
minus 1 or 2 weeks, depending on maybe few days I'm not available, maybe you're not available, depending on that.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank,
Cool. Thank you guys.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.